Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something that feels like a real tension, almost a contradiction, right at the core of following Jesus.
It really does. You hear these calls to discipleship and they demand everything. Total commitment, drop everything, take up your cross. It sounds incredibly demanding.
Seriously demanding, like spiritually exhausting, just
Yeah.
thinking about it. So how does that fit with what might be his most famous invitation, the one about finding rest, deep soul rest?
That's the paradox we're going to get stuck into today, looking closely at Matthew chapter 11, specifically verses 25 through 30. We want to go deeper than just the comforting words.
Right, look at the context, what leads up to it.
Exactly. The historical setting, the really staggering claims about his own authority that he makes just before the invitation, and what those key words like weary, yoke, rest actually meant back then. The goal is to see how that costly commitment is somehow the exact path to spiritual ease.
And you mentioned context. It feels crucial here. We can't just pluck verse 28 out on its own, can we?
Absolutely not. The scene in Matthew 11, right before this amazing invitation, is actually one of Jesus's harshest moments of judgment.
He's just condemned whole cities, right?
Mhm.
Chorazin, Bethsaida.
And Capernaum.
No.
And these weren't just random places. These were towns where he'd done some of his most significant miracles. We're talking major signs,
Mhm.
healings, stuff people absolutely saw.
They saw the evidence firsthand.
Undeniable evidence. Yet they collectively rejected him. They saw the power, heard the message, and basically said, no thanks. The feeling must have been incredibly heavy. Rejection, disappointment.
Almost like a mission failure in those areas.
In a sense, yeah. He's essentially writing off entire communities because they saw the light and chose darkness. It's really important to get why they were judged. It wasn't for lack of proof.
It was refusal.
Conscious refusal to respond with humility, with repentance. They were proud, resistant. So the stage is set with this really tense, severe atmosphere. Judgment has just been pronounced.
And then right on the heels of that severity, the mood just flips completely.
Instantly. He turns, and out comes arguably the most tender, welcoming invitation in all of Scripture.
That's quite the shift.
That contrast is everything. He's speaking to people who are utterly worn out, maybe by trying to keep impossible religious rules, maybe just by the sheer weight of life, maybe by that inner spiritual striving. He offers something the religious leaders, the Pharisees, could never, ever provide: real rest for the soul.
So the big idea for this deep dive is finding genuine rest isn't about doing less. It's about swapping the crushing burden of trying to do it all ourselves for the surprisingly light burden Jesus offers, a burden carried with him. Okay, let's pinpoint that shift. It starts in Matthew chapter 11, verse 25. And the text suggests Jesus' words here are a response, right? The Greek word apokrinomai means he answered or responded.
That's right. He's directly responding to what just happened, that rejection, that spiritual hardness he encountered in those Galilean towns.
But instead of complaining or lamenting, he starts with thanksgiving.
Yeah, a prayer thanks. And how he addresses God is immediately fascinating.
Let's read those verses. Matthew chapter 11, verses 25 and 26. At that time, Jesus declared, I thank you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that you have hidden these things from the wise and understanding and revealed them to little children. Yes, Father, for such was your gracious will.
Okay, notice the titles he uses for God right next to each other. First, Father. That's Abba territory, intimate, personal, relational. It speaks of closeness, love.
But then immediately, Lord of heaven and earth. That's cosmic, sovereign, the ultimate ruler with absolute authority over everything.
Putting those together is a massive statement. The all-powerful creator of the universe is also his intimate father.
Yep.
The one running the cosmos is the one he's talking to personally. It frames everything that follows.
And he thanks this Father, this sovereign Lord, for hiding things. That sounds strange. Hiding truth from some, revealing it to others.
It is strange from a human perspective. This is that paradox of revelation. It highlights that spiritual insight, understanding the real truth about God's kingdom, isn't something you achieve through smarts or effort. It's a gift. It comes by godly choice, grace, not merit.
So who are these wise and understanding folks he's talking about, the ones kept in the dark?
Well, in that immediate context, think about the people who relied on their own smarts, their religious training, their social standing. The scribes, the Pharisees, maybe even the leading citizens in those towns like Capernaum who thought they knew better.
They saw the miracles, but their pride, their intellect got in the way.
Exactly. Their intellectual pride was a barrier. They couldn't accept a message that didn't align with their preconceived notions or required them to humble themselves. They wanted a God who fit their box, basically.
The moment you think you're smart enough to judge God's revelation.
You disqualify yourself from actually receiving it. It's a dangerous place to be. They wanted a theology that made them look good, not one that required dependence.
And contrast that with the ones who do get it, the little children. What does that mean? Is it about innocence?
It's deeper than just innocence. The Greek word is nepioi. It literally means infants, babies, people who are completely and utterly dependent.
Wow. So not just humble, but powerless, dependent.
Exactly. And that's the scandal. In that culture, children had zero status. No rights, no voice, totally dependent. They were the opposite of the self-sufficient wise ones.
So he's not just saying be nice like kids. He's lifting up the powerless, the dependent, as the ones who actually get God.
Precisely. It's about childlike humility and total dependence. That posture opens the door to revelation. The fact that simple fishermen were following him while the religious scholars were plotting against him, that wasn't an accident. It was God's plan, turning the world's value system upside down.
And he says this happened because it was the Father's gracious will. What's the significance of that phrase?
That term, eudokia in Greek, it means God's good pleasure, what delights him. This choice to reveal truth to the humble and bypass the proud isn't random. It flows from God's very nature, his character. It pleases him to operate this way based on grace, not human status or intellect.
Okay, that sets up a huge shift again. Jesus goes from praising the Father's sovereign way of revealing truth to making these, frankly, mind-blowing claims about himself.
It's a critical pivot, and the two are completely linked. He can only offer the rest. He's about to promise if he actually has the authority he claims right here. The invitation's power rests on his identity.
Let's read that claim in Matthew chapter 11, verse 27. It really is stunning. All things have been handed over to me by my Father, and no one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son chooses to reveal him.
All things, just pause on that, it's total. Universal authority. The Father, he says, has given him complete authority over everything, creation, judgment, and, crucially for this passage, salvation itself.
Okay, but help me with this. Handed over. Doesn't that word imply he's like less than the Father if he had to be given authority? How does that square with his godly equality?
That's a really important question. The language handed over points to his role, his mission, particularly as the Messiah, the mediator. Think of it like being given a specific job or office. It speaks to a functional relationship within the Godhead for the purpose of redemption, not an inferiority in his essential nature.
Oh, okay. So it's about his role in the plan, not his fundamental being.
Exactly. The authority is delegated by the Father, yes, but it's absolute authority nonetheless,
Yeah.
and he wields it fully.
And that authority then leads into the second part of the verse, this unique relationship defined by knowing. You mentioned this isn't just head knowledge.
Not at all. The Greek word here is epigenosko. It's significant because there are other words for just knowing facts, like oida. Epigenosko means a deep, intimate, personal, experiential knowledge. It's the kind of knowing that comes through relationship and actually changes you.
So when he says only the Father knows the Son, and only the Son knows the Father, he's claiming a level of mutual intimacy that's unique in the universe.
Precisely. That mutual epigenosko is the core statement about his identity here. Only God the Father fully understands the Son's eternal godly nature, his being, and only the Son fully gets the Father's heart, his character, his plans. This proves their shared godly nature.
And makes him the exclusive mediator.
Absolutely. If you want to truly know the Father in that deep relational way, Jesus is saying, I am the only way in. There's no other access point. It connects directly to other places, like John chapter 14, verse 6. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
Okay, let's tie this back to who gets this revelation. It's open to anyone, he says. Universal possibility.
Right. Anyone, doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, educated, uneducated, status is irrelevant.
But it's only given to those to whom the Son chooses to reveal him.
And that brings us right back to grace. Revelation isn't earned, it isn't achieved by human effort or cleverness, it's sovereignly given by the Son.
So we can't just, study harder or try harder
Yeah.
and force our way into knowing God.
Exactly. If it were about human effort, the wise and understanding would have figured it out. But it's about the Son choosing to reveal the Father, primarily to the humble, the dependent, the nepioi. It proves again, revelation is a gift. And only someone with this level of godly authority, this unique relationship with the Father, could possibly offer the kind of soul rest he's about to describe.
So that massive claim of authority in verse 27 really sets the stage. Because he has this unique connection to the Father and control over revelation, he actually has the power to make good on the promise he makes next.
Right. The ultimate authority claim flows directly into the most tender universal invitation. The power is established, now the compassion shines through.
Let's dive into that famous verse, Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest.
First word, come, dut in Greek. It's not a mild suggestion like maybe drop by sometime. It's an imperative, a command, but a welcoming one.
And it feels present, ongoing.
Exactly. It means come right now and keep on coming. It's a continuous invitation into relationship.
And the scope. All. No exceptions mentioned.
None. This just cuts through every human barrier, religious background, ethnicity, social class, education level. Everyone is included in the call.
But he specifically calls out two kinds of weary people. Those who labor and those who are heavy laden. Are those just synonyms, or is there a difference?
Oh, there's a distinct difference, and it's beautifully captured by the Greek words. It covers sort of the two main ways we experience burden.
Okay, break that down for us.
So the first group, those who labor, that's kupio. This word means to toil to the point of exhaustion. It's about the weariness that comes from intense effort, striving that just wears you out from the inside.
Okay, so that's like burnout. Trying too hard, maybe for perfection or acceptance.
Exactly. It's the burden you create for yourself through your own relentless efforts. Then you have the second group, the heavy laden fortizo. This means being loaded down, burdened from the outside, like carrying a weight that's too heavy for you, something placed upon you.
So copio is internal effort. Fortizo is external pressure.
You got it. And that distinction is brilliant because it covers pretty much every kind of human exhaustion.
Let's think about copio in Jesus' day. The religious labor must have been immense.
Oh, unbelievable. The Pharisees had taken God's law, which was meant for life, and turned it into this suffocating system of legalism. You had the 613 specific commands derived from the Torah, plus this mountain of extra traditions and interpretations, the Gezerah.
Can you give an example? How did that play out practically?
Well, take the Sabbath. The command was to rest. But the Pharisees defined 39 categories of work forbidden on the Sabbath. So if you were hungry walking through a field and picked a few heads of grain to eat, like the disciples did, they called that harvesting.
Which was forbidden work.
Right. Or even simple things like tying a certain kind of knot could be considered work. Life became this constant tightrope walk, terrified of breaking some obscure rule. It was pure performance anxiety.
That sounds like the definition of copio, spiritual burnout, from trying to keep score, never feeling like you've done enough.
Absolutely. And you see that same dynamic today, don't you? Maybe not with 613 rules, but in performance-based religion, where you feel acceptance depends on how much you do, how good you look externally, ticking all the boxes. That fear of never measuring up is still a heavy, heavy burden.
And then there's the fortizo, the external loads.
Yeah, the things life just throws at you. Financial stress, job insecurity, caring for sick family members, chronic illness, maybe the weight of grief, or just the pressure cooker of modern life. You feel like you're carrying the world on your shoulders.
Loaded beyond your capacity.
Right. And finally, there's maybe the deepest weariness, that existential kind. The internal copio of searching for meaning and coming up empty. The secret fortizo of guilt and shame you can't shake off. Loneliness. The fear of death. Burdens no amount of success or distraction can truly lift.
And Jesus looks at people crushed under all of that, the internal striving, the external pressures, the deep soul ache, and he makes this incredible promise. I will give you rest.
And that rest, the word is enapao, it's not just taking a break or having a nap.
Is more fundamental.
Much more. It means refreshment, restoration, genuine relief, like putting down the heavy load and breathing deeply for the first time. And notice, I will give you rest. It's a gift. It's not something you achieve. It's something he provides because only he has the authority to lift those ultimate burdens.
Okay, so he offers this gift of rest, but then comes the condition or maybe the instruction. It feels like another paradox. The invitation to rest is immediately followed by, take my yoke upon you. Rest and a yoke. That sounds like work.
It does sound like work, and it is in a sense, but that's the key. He's not offering rest from responsibility or effort. He's offering rest within a different kind of effort, under a different kind of master. It's an exchange. You swap one yoke for another.
You trade the crushing yoke for his yoke. Let's read verses 29 and 30. Take my yoke upon you, and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light.
That image of the yoke zygos in Greek would have been instantly understood. Obviously, it's the wooden bar joining two animals, usually oxen, to pull a plow or cart together.
But it had a metaphorical meaning too, didn't it? Especially among rabbis.
Yes, absolutely. Rabbis routinely talked about the yoke of the law or the yoke of the commandments or even the yoke of the kingdom. It meant the system of teaching, the commitment, the discipline you submitted yourself to.
So when Jesus says, take my yoke, he's deliberately contrasting his way, his teaching, his system, with the yoke of the law as taught by the Pharisees, which he knew was crushing people.
Exactly. He's saying, commit to my way of living, my teaching, my authority, submit to me. It's about relationship with him, not just following rules. And the physical image of the yoke itself tells us more.
Like the partnership aspect, two animals working together.
Right. You're not pulling the load alone anymore. You're yoked with him. And typically, you'd yoke a younger, less experienced ox with an older, stronger, trained one.
So Jesus is the experienced one.
He's the strong, steady one who knows the way. He guides the disciple, teaches them how to walk the path, how to pull effectively, and crucially, he bears the heavy end of the load. You're working, yes, but alongside him, learning from him.
That's a powerful image. And you mentioned something about yokes being custom fit.
Yes. This is fascinating. A good farmer or carpenter wouldn't just slap any old yoke on an ox. A well-made yoke was carefully carved to fit the specific contours of that animal's neck and shoulders.
Why was that important?
Because a poorly fitting yoke would rub, cause sores, chafe, and make the work agonizing and inefficient. But a yoke that was custom-fitted, while still allowing the animal to work, actually distributed the weight properly and provided a measure of stability and, well, ease even during the labor.
So the rest isn't just something you get after the work is done. It's something you can experience while you're yoked to him, because the yoke itself is designed for you by him.
Precisely. The work of life, the work of discipleship continues, but the agonizing chafing, the crushing weight that can be lifted when you're yoked correctly to him.
But why is his yoke easy? He tells us right there, learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart. It's about his character.
Absolutely fundamental. The nature of the yoke is defined by the nature of the one offering it. Let's look at those words. First, gentle, praus.
Often translated meek. What does praus really mean?
It means strength under control. It's not weakness. It's power wielded with restraint, patience, and consideration. Jesus isn't harsh, demanding, or quick to condemn failure. Remember Isaiah's prophecy. He won't break a bruised reed or snuff out a smoldering wick. He handles our weaknesses tenderly.
And lowly in heart, tepenos.
Humble, approachable. He's not like the aloof religious leaders who look down on people. He gets down in the trenches with us. He's a patient teacher who genuinely understands our struggles because he lived a human life. He doesn't expect more from us than we can handle with his help.
So if you put the two yokes side by side,
The contrast is stark, isn't it? The yoke of human religion, or even just the yoke of self-effort and worldly striving, brings heavy burdens, harsh demands, constant performance pressure, and relies entirely on your own strength. The result: exhaustion, guilt, burnout, kopia, and fortisso.
but Jesus' yoke,
His yoke is described as krestos. That's the Greek word for easy. It also means well-fitting, kind, useful, pleasant, and his burden is light. The things he asks primarily to love God and love others, lived out in dependence on him, are life-giving, not soul-crushing.
it shifts everything from trying to earn acceptance to simply responding to the acceptance he already gives.
Exactly. And notice the result. You will find rest for your souls. It's not just a one-time gift. It's a continuous discovery. As you yoked with him, learning his ways, trusting his character, you experientially find the soul rest again and again. It's not just theory, it's lived reality.
Let's focus on that outcome. Rest for your souls. That sounds incredibly deep. We're not just talking about physical rest, like getting enough sleep, right?
No, much, much deeper. The word for soul here is psyche. It refers to your inner self, your mind, your will, your emotions, the very core of your being.
So this is holistic rest. What does that look like?
Well, it means psychological peace, finding an end to that relentless inner striving, the anxiety, the what-ifs. It means spiritual refreshment, being able to actually connect with God without the weight of guilt or performance. Jesus' authority guarantees that access.
It sounds like emotional healing, too. Freedom from shame.
Definitely. Freedom from the burden of past failures or present insecurities. And maybe mental clarity, understanding who you are in God's eyes, understanding your purpose, which combats that deep existential weariness we talked about. It touches every part of your inner world.
It sounds like the absolute opposite of striving.
It is, and that really gets to the heart of finding rest versus seeking rest. If you're always seeking rest through your own efforts, trying to achieve the perfect family life, the ultimate career success, flawless spirituality, you're basically still wearing that heavy yoke of self-reliance.
Because there's always another hoop to jump through, another standard to meet.
Always. The goalposts keep moving. You never actually arrive at rest. But Jesus says you find rest when you come to him. It's like discovering a treasure you weren't strong enough to dig up yourself. It's receiving a gift.
You learn to operate from a place of rest because your acceptance is already secure in him.
That's the core of it. Your effort then becomes a response of gratitude and love, not a desperate attempt to earn something you already have through his grace.
Okay, let's make this super practical. How does this yoke exchange play out for people today dealing with modern pressures? Give us some examples.
All right, let's take the classic workaholic. Someone whose entire identity and sense of worth is tied up in their productivity, their achievements, the next rung on the ladder. They're deep in copia, right? Burning themselves out.
Their value feels totally conditional.
Totally. So taking Jesus's yoke for them means first finding that deep psychological peace that comes from knowing their worth isn't based on their output. It's based on his acceptance. The light burden then becomes doing their work faithfully, maybe as an act of service or worship, but resting in the knowledge that Jesus carries the ultimate burden of their validation and the outcomes. Their identity is secure before they even start working.
What about the perfectionist? Someone terrified of making a mistake, constantly striving for flawlessness.
The perfectionist is carrying that heavy pharisaical yoke of impossible standards. The fear of failure, of judgment is immense. They find rest when they really take to heart Jesus' character, that he's proud, gentle, and Tapatinos, lowly.
Because a gentle teacher isn't shocked by mistakes.
Exactly. A gentle teacher sees mistakes as part of learning. He doesn't demand instant perfection. He encourages progress. The perfectionist exchanges the crushing burden of I must never fail for the light burden of I can learn through failure, because they're yoked to a teacher who is infinitely patient and forgiving.
Okay, one more. The person consumed by anxiety, always trying to control everything in a world that feels out of control. Yeah, that feels like Fortizo, right? Weighted down.
Definitely Fortizo. They're carrying the unbearable weight of trying to manage the future, control outcomes, anticipate every possible problem. It's exhausting. The exchange for them is about consciously choosing to trust the sovereignty of the Lord of heaven and earth we talked about earlier.
Trading the burden of control for the yoke of trust.
Precisely. It doesn't mean challenges disappear, but instead of fighting frantically to hold everything together themselves, they practice handing over the ultimate weight-bearing responsibility to their all-powerful partner. It shifts the load.
It may be people pleasers too,
Yeah.
carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations.
Oh, absolutely. That's another crushing Fortizo trying to earn approval from a fickle audience. They find rest by choosing to let God's opinion, his acceptance, be the only one that ultimately matters. The light burden becomes living for an audience of one, which is far less demanding than trying to please everyone else.
So practically speaking, it sounds like identifying one specific area where you're striving or feeling burdened this week.
Yeah, pick one. Maybe it's worry about finances. Maybe it's parenting guilt. Maybe it's that perfectionism.
And then consciously practice taking Jesus' yoke in that specific area. Asking, okay, Jesus, how would you handle this? What's your way? And then trusting his gentle character instead of just gritting your teeth and trying harder on your own.
It's that daily, sometimes moment-by-moment realization. The weight I put on myself is always heavier than the custom-fitted, grace-filled yoke he offers me.
Well, that's brought us through a really rich, deep dive into Matthew chapter 11, verses 25 through 30. Let's just quickly recap the main movements we saw. We started with that striking paradox, God choosing to reveal truth to the humble, the dependent, nepioi, while the wise miss out.
And that divine choice then underscored Jesus' incredible exclusive authority. He's the only one who truly knows the Father, and the only one who can reveal the Father, giving him the absolute right to make the promises that follow.
And based on that solid foundation of authority, he issues the great invitation. Come, all you who are exhausted by religious effort, kopiao, or crushed by life's burdens, Fortizo, and exchange that heavy yoke for his easy, well-fitting yoke, zygosis, of relationship and discipleship, the end goal being that deep, holistic rest for your soul.
Right. Now, before we wrap up, we want to leave you, the listener, with something to chew on this week. A final thought stemming directly from this passage. We spent all this time focusing on Jesus saying, specifically, come to me.
Yeah, he didn't say come to a perfect theology or come adopt this set of religious practices or even come join the right institution. He said, come to me.
So the question for you to reflect on is this. How do you personally differentiate between cultivating a direct, living relationship with Jesus himself, which seems to be the source of this rest, and simply engaging in religious activities or duties? Because sometimes those activities, even good ones, can actually become a new kind of heavy yoke if the connection to him gets lost.
That's a crucial distinction, making sure that what we do flows from the who we're connected to.
Exactly. So maybe this week, try taking a quick personal inventory of the burdens you're carrying. Which ones are you trying to handle solo? And then perhaps spend some time in quiet, just focused on receiving. Receiving the rest he promises, trusting his gentle and lowly heart.
Because ultimately, the invitation isn't for rest from life's demands, but rest in him, right in the middle of them. Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.